Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our Saturday morning covenant keepers. We are going to discuss the covenants of growth. I have to get it back for a second because I lost my paper. We're going to discuss the covenants of service, growth, and witness. So if the two ladies who are here with me in Zoom could join me, I would greatly appreciate it. Welcome, Minister Ray and Minister Joanne. Thank you for joining me this morning. Not let me do this all on my own. I do appreciate that. Now, so this morning, the first thing we're going to talk about is service. So, according to the scriptures, sacred and holy scriptures, each one of us is called to be a minister, according to 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. So this is what the covenant of service is all about, is being a minister, where we all have a divine call to use our gifts, skills, and talents for the ministry of God. So our covenant of ministry means that we take our ministry for God serious, as serious as we do our secular jobs. Sometimes I think I take my covenant even more serious than I do my secular job. I don't know about Minister Ray and Minister Joanne. Um, the work we do in our community and our world as a church is just as important. So there are other benefits to being in service to others. Many of us have found that when we take the focus off of our own problems and help others, people with theirs, suddenly our problems seem much less insignificant. I don't know about you ladies, but I find that, and that's why I think I take this one, I take my covenant of service with the church very seriously, because I I don't know about these two ladies, but I tend to carry it over into my job. I often find, uh, especially with, I work with the mentally ill, and especially with some of my patients, where uh, they just need someone to talk about God or a higher power, and they're not always Christians. One of my favorite patients is actually a Muslim. I had one gentleman who was Hindu, so I said, okay, you need to sit and teach me, because if I'm going to help you, I need to understand. And it's funny to me how many things that um, the other religions do that we are alike. So it's just, I find it really interesting, and I often wonder then, because of that, why we have the battles that we do about religion and who's right and who's wrong. So anyway, let me get back to the topic. At MCC Baltimore, we believe that every member is a minister of the gospel, the good news, and God has blessed us with different and wonderful gifts, and each of us is called to serve with all of our gifts, skills, and talents. So, and it's funny, I can have a discussion with both of these ladies, and so that means we don't just attend. And I don't know about you, but when I first attended the first Sunday, I think I sat 3 rows from the last seat, last row. Um, and I was like, I'm just going to sit back here. And at that point, we had a Wednesday night service called Whosoever Wednesday. And so they talked me into coming to that. And I was like, okay, I'll go see what this is. And I was like, I'm going to sit in the back row. I'm not joining this stuff. Mm. And then one Wednesday they said, hey, we need you to do the soundboard. And I'm like going, do what? The soundboard. I'm like, what do you mean? I haven't made it. I made it to the middle of the church. I'm not in the last row anymore. There are people behind me now. You want me to do the soundboard? Yep, you need to do the soundboard. Okay, well, I guess I can do that. Hmm, I don't know what I'm doing, so I can't do that. Oh, we can show you. We can teach you in 5 minutes. I was like, 5 minutes? Okay, 5 minutes. I guess I can do that. Okay, I'll do it. So I did the soundboard that night. Next thing I know, I'm down to do the soundboard every Wednesday night. I'm like going, well, how come I got it every Wednesday night? Because you're the only one who can stay for the whole service. Well, that was nice of you guys to ask me and not just assume. Oh, wait a minute. We need somebody to do it this Sunday for service. Can you do it then? Okay, I guess so. Oh, wow. All right. I've gone a long way from the back of the back road back there. Let me go back to my back road. Okay. Oh, we need you to get up and read. Read what? We need you to read the scripture because you read in Bible study and you do it really good. No, no, I got the soundboard. Don't you remember? I don't have to get up front. Okay, I'll read scripture. Mm, mm, mm. Hey, what now? You know, you come every Sunday. You do the soundboard every Sunday. You even do it for, we had 2 services then too. You even do it for both services. We need you on the board of directors. You need me where? To do what? Oh, I gotta think about that one. I had to talk to my partner. Next thing I know, I'm on the board of directors. And I'm not just on the board of directors, I'm on there for 10 years. I'm like going, but guess what? I learned a lot. I've gotten trained in a lot. And I've grown a lot. So I don't know about you ladies and your service stories, but I think maybe people need to hear them. So Minister Ray, if you want to go first.
Um, okay. Well, my service story um wasn't like instant, like kind of like yours. So when I came to the church, we were actually well, little I didn't know, but we were going into a transition from one pastor to the next. But the next took a few years. so um when I first started, I probably sat towards the back, I think on the right hand side. And I would come every Sunday, I think to 11 o'clock service. Yes, to 11 o'clock service. And then I would help around, but I wasn't like on any particular like ministry or anything like that. I would just kind of help out if I was needed. But then I would say probably into year 2, maybe going into year 3, I did start working on the soundboard. I came to 9 o'clock service when we still had 2 services, and I did 9 o'clock soundboard. Um, and Minister Melinda, you taught me the soundboard. So I did that, and then still didn't really do um too much. I was actually the assistant to the interim pastor for a while, because I was free during the day. So I helped her with her scheduling and things like that. So that was a job. And then I kind of left for a little bit. I went to school, and school kept me out on Sundays for a few months, I think about 3 or 4 months. But when I came back, um, I had the idea, I would say about 6 years ago or so now to have children's church. So I wrote a proposal and started doing children's church, and that was wonderful. And then I was asked to be on the board, and I said no. I said absolutely not. um, and after some, I'm not gonna say coaxing, but you know how you don't think you have it in you, don't think you can do it. So it's easy to say no because I'm not good, I'm not good enough to be on the board. Um, and I joined the board, and I'm still on the board, uh, and now in ministry. So I'm still doing. So I don't think my service story is over yet.
Good morning. It's still being written, Minister Ray. It's still being written and continues to be for all of us, I believe. My service story, I think, before I came to MCC Baltimore, the church that I grew up in and attended, was like my whole life, and my family was there, and it's still there. I grew up as a Lutheran. And so my service was that I was always very active, as a child, as a teenager, um, as a young adult, and then adult on up, with service. I mean, I did quite a bit. Of course, children's choir, youth choir, read scriptures, read the announcements. Um, I actually worked, I was the editor for the church newsletter, so I did that for a number of years. Let's see, as a teenager, I served as an acolyte. So I had my service experience. I was used to really being very active. Um, but what was funny was that for me, I think a lot of it just kind of came with being who I was, meaning who my parents were, who my sisters were, that my mother was superintendent of Sunday schools. My mother also, was taught Sunday school for many, many, many years. My father was president of the congregation. He was an elder. Um, my sisters were very active. So a lot of it was kind of as an extension. But I think for me, it was not maybe so much me, but because of what was expected, because of, who my family was. And I think when I came to Baltimore, um, for me, it was different, because then I was no longer this person's daughter or this person's sister or this person's mom. I was pretty much, it was just me. And so it was really kind of um, an awakening, I guess, so to speak, because then it was really discovering who I am, what I what I was felt I was called to do, what and doing it for different reasons. That you're doing it because of the love of service and the love of the Lord. Not saying that I didn't have that before, but it really truly was because solely of my love for the Lord and my wanting to serve, and not really because of it being expected. But I, uh, kind of became involved in things kind of like kind of like maybe because they needed help. You needed somebody to do this, you needed somebody to do that. And then, um, I think I read scripture or something, help with service, but small. And then I ended up being appointed to the board, and worked for to fulfill a term, and then after that, then ran for the board, and was elected. And so that kind of began my service journey. And I've served in different capacities, and it's grown, and I've stretched and I've grown a whole lot, because, like I said, I think it was because I finally had a voice, so to speak. I found like I had a voice, and that, I think, really made a difference. And so now I'm going to be quiet because I've talked a lot, and I'm now starting to get hoarse.
Brief pause while we switch our mics around. Good morning, Minister Lee. Thank you for joining us. We're talking about service and how we got started in our service at MCC Baltimore. Um, so if you'd like to share your journey, we would love it. I do want to say one thing, folks. Your journey is going to be different from all of ours. That's why we're kind of sharing. The other thing is I got asked, I've been asked several times, what is it that I've done at the church? And I used to say I've done everything but dance. And then somebody said, that's why everybody's laughing, because they know it would not be a pretty sight. Um, so then somebody reminded me, you may not have danced, but you came to every dance rehearsal and played the music for us and reminded us our moves. And like there are several songs where I had every move down, and I could sit back at the soundboard and do it all so that they would know it. And the people would laugh at me, and like, you were part of the dance ministry too. So I can't leave too many out. I haven't taught Sunday school yet here. I've taught at other churches, but not here. So, Minister Lee, your turn if you want to tell how you got started in your service and moving into ministry.
Sure. My service got started at MCC. The first thing I did, I became the altar guy. That was the first thing I did, because whoever did it before, and I can't remember, he left. That's all I remember. And I remember, mentioning to someone, I used to do that when I was at the Catholic Church, and somehow I got that. And then from that, I went to helping with Bible study and becoming the head of the co-lead for the lay speakers, because we didn't have a pastor then. And that was that until two people who should remain nameless decided to put my name up for the Eternal Ministries person. Uh-huh. And I had no idea what an eternal ministry was. But that's how I got started. And reflecting over the past month about ministry and how things happen. My idea was always, if I saw a need and if I could fill it, if I had the ability to fill it, I would fill it. And that's what it was. And still what it is. I'm trying to get out of that now, because I realize that just because I can do something doesn't necessarily mean I have to do something. And when I do something like that, I'm blocking somebody else from doing something. And that's how I started. I apologize for being late. I thought I had another meeting, but it was canceled. So And then I remembered this one was going on.
So thank you for joining us. And it's funny, we've all told our little stories about how we started in our service and everything. But you know, we forgot one of the first things you can do as a part of serving in a church. And that's actually joining it and becoming a member. And we all did that, and we all had our different journeys to it, as you can see. And Minister Lee, I don't know who put your name up for internal ministries. I have no clue. I don't know what they're talking about. None at all. So, mm. So anyway, excuse me, I still have my cough. I've gotten rid of everything else but my cough. So the first thing you can do is join, and that's one of the reasons why we have this Covenant Keepers class. Because believe it or not, all of us have skills and things that we can do that I don't know about you guys, but I found out I can do a lot of different things through serving in the church. And Minister Lee brought up a good point. Sometimes we need to sit down so that others can do, because we also don't want to become resentful, I think is a good word, of doing what we do for so long. Because I enjoy doing the soundboard now because I don't have to do it every Sunday, even before we went virtual. But for a while, it became almost a chore. It was like, okay, it's Sunday morning, you got to get up and be at church. And when I lived in Catonsville and had to be downtown and needed to be there by 8:30 because we had two services. That got to be a chore after a while. And then I was there until after the 11 o'clock service was done. And I think by then I was on the board of directors, so I was counting the money. I got out of there at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So Sunday became a chore. And that's one thing we don't want it to become. We do not want your service to become a chore, because then you're not doing it for God. You're just doing it because I got to do this now. And we don't want that. We want you to be doing it happily and gladly. And I think you can see from our journeys, we've all moved from one thing to another. And the other thing is we're learning to say when, nah, it's not my season for that one anymore. Time to move on to the next one, I think. But the one thing that we haven't done is we haven't said it's time to move on from membership. My wife and I live over an hour away from the church, and we still are very active, as you can see, and very much consider this the place where we want to be and want to grow and to serve God. Excuse me one moment. There we go. I was starting to get dry. So, you know, the other thing is it's really funny. I love watching new folks come in, because you have those who are like Minister Ray and I, where we sat in the back and we eventually moved up a little and eventually moved up a little and moved up a little. And then it was like, oh, we need you to do this. And next thing I know, I'm doing everything. Well, what's the best way to get burnout on church service? To do everything.
Everything.
We don't want you to have to think you have to do everything, because we want you there for the long haul. Minister Rex.
Well, I was going to say, Minister Mel, I don't think there's anything wrong with, especially as a new member, dipping your toe in different ministries, or there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you shouldn't be a part of every ministry, because like Minister Lee said, you want to have room for other people. And you don't want to get burnt out, because it can be easy. And I know sometimes when people are coming in and they're new, and they might be from a traditional background where they were not celebrated or affirmed, and that's fine. Like you rush in and you want to do everything, and that's fine. But realize, make sure you're putting all your energy in the one or two things instead of spreading yourself thin. Because I think when you, excuse me, when you spread yourself thin, you're not giving your best and your all. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Minister Ray. Um, and I agree. You have to, how is it? I like what you said. You have to test them out. You have to dip your toe in because you need to find out what is the best fit for you. But even for me, who's of the four of us been there the longest, not every ministry is the best fit for me. All of us are not involved in everything. Like Minister Ray, I'm in awe of what you do with the kids. I every Sunday, nope. I love children, but guess what? After a while, I'm so glad they go back to their mommies and their daddies. I really am. I love my grandchildren, but they can go back to their mommies and their daddies, and I'm not mad. Grandma's job is to spoil them, okay? And I I will never forget, and I don't tell this one too often, but I'm the first time I moved away from home. My father called up the local pastor for the denomination I grew up in, which was a Lutheran denomination, different from my wife. I have to stress that. And so the next thing I know, the pastor's calling me up and coming for a visit, and it's almost summertime. And my father had told the pastor how I was active in church. Well, he didn't have a lot of choice. My mother was in charge of Sunday school. My father was on the board, on the church council. I didn't have a lot of choice, and this was the church I'd grown up in and been in for 20 plus years. He volunteered me to help teach vacation Bible study. And I'm like going, oh, your father said you could help us out with that you're really good at teaching. Really? I'm like, oh, well, okay. Yeah, I'll come help. Next thing I know, I show up. Oh, we gave you the 12, 13, and 14-year-olds. Okay, no problem. Oh, and the person who was going to be in charge, well, she had to have emergency surgery last week, so you got it by yourself. I'm like, okay. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed teaching those kids, but I don't ever want to teach a whole 2 weeks worth of vacation Bible study again by myself. Mr. Ray, I'm telling you now, I'll help you out, but I'm not going to be there by myself no more. So that's what I'm saying. You got to find your niche, and you can try everything. The first thing we want you to try is membership. We would love to have you join us, but find your niche. And like I said, I know I've learned my niche is not children's church every day. It's just not. But and another thing we always stress that is outreach and missions, or we always need help with that. Every church does. Every church is trying to grow their outreach. Every church is trying to reach out to others to within the community to serve and to grow. It's just a given. And it's funny because we have four of us here and we all have different gifts. We can tell you that. And we've all done things that we knew as a church that we knew was not our gift, but it needed done. So we did it. Okay. I've seen people there who had asthma cleaning the church, and I'm like, would you just go sit down? You're stirring up the dust and you're going to have an asthma attack. And then I'm going to have to call 911. Please don't do that. And then you're thinking, y'all, what you folks online don't know is we used to have a Pepsi machine in the church, and it didn't work. It never worked from the day we got it. I never understood. but it never worked. So why did one of the smallest people at the church think that they were going to help move it? Now, I'm like, you barely 5'2", and you're going to help move this Pepsi machine? Go for it. So I think the other thing I want to say is know your limitations. Know what your skills are. My admiration, may I tell the story, Minister Lee, about you and your feet? My admiration goes to Minister Lee because he was in charge of our justice ministry, and he said, I can't do it. I can't join those walks and the protests, and I can't do it no more. My feet just will not allow me. Well, you know what? I agree with you. I truly believe in the justice ministry, but I'm like you. I can't do that anymore. My back. 5 minutes in, I'd be like, peace out. I got to go sit down somewhere. You know. So my admiration to those folks who have learned and know their limits, because you have to know what you can and can't do and understand not just what you're emotionally called for, but even what you're physically called for. Because I just can't do it. We just can't do it anymore. I used to move everything around in the church, and now it's like, nope. Give me a little area when it's cleanup day. Give me a little area to clean up, and I'll get that spick and span. But don't ask me to move all the furniture, Minister Lee.
Excuse me, just for 1 second, I had to get something.
Okay. So we want everybody to come in and to serve and to join us and to be with us and get to know us, but also understand that as our pastor says, no is a one-word sentence in every language. So we're not afraid of that word, and we're not upset if you use that word. Okay? Excuse me.
And Minister Mel, I think going back to like your limitations, I think it's okay to say that I can't do this. And I think that's another surefire way to get burnt out, saying yes to everything. If you know that you don't get off of work until 5 o'clock and something starts at 5:30, say, no, or say I'll be late. Like, don't put yourself in a situation where you don't have time to decompress before. So, I think it's easier said than done, because I think of, the society we live in, you want to be doing. And I'm preaching to myself because you all know I don't take breaks. So, yeah, I really think that is definitely a surefire way. You just have to be able to say, excuse me, you have to be able to say, no, I can't do that. And it's okay. It's okay. I think it's better to say you can't do it than to do it and not be able to give your all, for whatever reason.
Thank you, Minister Ray. That's an excellent point. Because it's your time too. It's not just the church's time, it's your time too. And you have to be honest with God and yourself at the same time. And so we just asked you to be honest with yourself, because some of us, it's taken us a while to get there on that journey to learn that one little, I love it, that one word sentence. No, I'm sorry, my time just doesn't allow me to do that. No, I'm sorry. My wife has to remind me to say no, I'm sorry, that's my Sunday off. No, I'm sorry. I think Minister Ray has to learn to say no, I'm sorry, I have to take a Sunday off. So we've all had our struggles with that. And we expect that you will have some struggles with that as you join us and grow. But we're there to help you along that journey, I think, is what you'll find out. We don't want you to burn out and say, They only wanted me to join to do. They didn't really care about me. No, we do care about you. We don't expect you to have to do. We would like you to come join us with some things, but we don't expect you to join everything. Um, which kind of segues us into the next covenant, which is growth. Because how do you grow? You grow by doing and you grow by joining um, some things, not everything. You grow by doing certain things. Because what are some things you ladies can think of that we use for growth?
Well, we have this covenant keepers. When we were in the building, spiritual formation. Um, also, oh my goodness. Um, oh no, I can't remember. I can't think of the last thing. But a fellowship also helps with growth. When you get around like-minded people, it's like I said, especially if you're coming from a background where were not affirmed. It's kind of hard to switch that off, maybe. The things that you were told. It can be a little you have to say, well, who's telling me the truth? So I think when you get around those like-minded people who maybe have been in that situation also, they can help you grow and learn.
I agree with that. Interaction is one of the best. Um, you missed one thing, Bible study that we have. And so that everybody knows, our classes have not, nothing has actually stopped because we're virtual. We have literally done everything virtually that we did at the church. We had our spiritual formation classes online. As you see, we do the covenant keepers online. We do our Bible study online. We do our intercessory prayer online. We have adjusted everything to meet the needs of right now, which I think has also taught us a lot because uh, even though we're at home, we still find, and not necessarily running to the church for everything. I don't know about the other two who are on with me, but I still find myself very busy. And
Yes.
Minister Joe said, we got to get on Zoom. But it's not just that, it's also been a learning curve because not only have we learned as far as our biblical studies go and our growth in that, but we've even learned because when we first started Zoom, I wish you could have seen my eyeballs. They were about that big. Do what? You want me to do what? No, 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 no. And then, oh, we can do Zoom live to Facebook. Do what? Oh, they formatted it differently. And then now I've gotten real comfortable with going live to Facebook. And then all of a sudden, this week, what did they do? They changed the format on me to go live on Facebook. And Minister Ray can attest to it. Wednesday night, I was like, oh my God, they changed it, guys. Wait a minute. I went into a panic attack for a minute. But that was my growing curve because today I went, got this down.
I was saying you handled it very well on Wednesday. Yeah, I totally agree with you about learning because, excuse me, what I love about MCC Baltimore is we have not taken a Sunday off, even from transitioning to in the building and then find out that, Baltimore City was shutting down. It's like that very next Sunday we were on Zoom. And I keep saying I'm going to go back and watch that because I want to see, because I know we've grown just because that was our first time. We didn't know, we didn't know much about anything. We were just, kind of winging it, but we knew that we needed to be there for MCC Baltimore. So yeah, so you will definitely grow and learn here because I'm still learning about Zoom and different things. You know, and we've been in it, about over a little over a year.
And it's funny because the other thing is um, we've also learned to give each other space because of learning and because of growing. Because I think my panic attacks used to come about because I was afraid of, when we first started this, I was so afraid of doing it wrong. So afraid. And then I can even remember going to Bible study the first couple of times and I was afraid of having the wrong answer. And it was like, now it's like, I'll just enter into the discussion, and if I'm wrong, I'll get corrected, and I get corrected in such a nice way. Sometimes I don't even realize I've been corrected, or if I have a panic attack with all this electronic stuff, it's like, calm down, you just take it a step at a time. Like Wednesday night, it was like, just share the screen with me, Minister Melinda, and I'll help you figure it out. And it was so helpful because nobody got upset, nobody else, and that's the way it is when you grow as a community. And I think that's the thing I'm trying to say is that your growth is not just your individual growth, it's growth as a community. Um, and it's growth together because I think the three of us have done a lot of growing in the last year spiritually, as well as with all of our electronics. Because if you'd have told us a year and a half ago we were going to be comfortable getting on Zoom and getting on Facebook and talking about our growth and our journeys and everything else, we'd have looked at you like, yeah, I don't think so. So, but what are some things that we can do for growth? What are other items that we can do for growth besides just joining in? And we've named a lot of things that we can join in, but we've got all of our classes, we've said, but there are some things you can do on your own.
Yeah, Miss Miller, that's exactly what I was going to say. Spending that alone time, with the Lord, and hearing and reading your word, of course, but reading it for yourself and your own interpretation, and using those tools online to help you with words and translations. Because even when we were in Bible study, we were, what word was that? Oh, I can't remember the word, but it was like literally the same word in Hebrew, and it was like that's just his definition of it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So we're thinking, oh,
Will and lack of this past Wednesday.
yeah, yeah. It was like, oh, but that's lack is. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, just like being open to learning that you don't know everything. um and that's why we're here. We're here as a church to help you grow and to grow ourselves. Because if a church doesn't grow in knowledge, then it just, they're stuck. So we need people to teach so that they can grow and then we can grow also.
Thank you. Thank you. I love what you said about we need people to teach, because the other thing is not just in our biblical knowledge do we need people to teach so that we can grow, because teaching stretches us, um, just in our everyday skills. Because if I hadn't taught Minister Rita how to do the soundboard, she couldn't have taught the next person. And if I hadn't learned how to do the live to Facebook, I wouldn't be able to teach somebody else, because guess what? I had to go to work and teach somebody else how to use Zoom. Okay. And because we did it at church first, I became so comfortable with it that I didn't care. Or we use spreadsheets for everything at church to keep track of everything. It's like little calendars. We keep track of who's teaching Bible study and what the topic is. We keep track of Our calendar is in a spreadsheet. Everything's in a spreadsheet. So I go to work and they want to know, well, how do we track this? And how do we track that? Now all of a sudden I've become queen of the spreadsheets on my job because of something that I learned at church. Okay. And it was like, how can you? And my growth became very interconnected because the one thing I learned here, I could do here, and I ended up growing in both places. So your growth in church is not just necessarily for church. It could actually be for your secular job or for something else in the community. And I think we forget that sometimes, that it doesn't have to be just spiritual growth. It could be growth in other things because, like I said, if I hadn't learned how to do all the spreadsheets on Google Drive here for church, I've never known how to do it when I got to work. And now I've got 20 different spreadsheets for things I track at work. So, one skill can lead over into other things. Um, and I think one of the things that we haven't talked about yet is your prayer life. It's part of your growth. Um, and I don't know about the ladies who are on with me, but for me, I always consider prayer life the weakest part of my spiritual life. I can sit and read, I can read the Bible and be happy as a clam. But if you told me to get up and pray, my knees were knocking like this, and you could hear them. I didn't care what anybody said. And now it's like, Mr. Melinda, we need you to do the prayer. Oh, okay, I got it. That's a lot of growth for me because I'm still a little nervous, but my knees aren't knocking so loud that you can hear them anymore. But you can grow in your prayer life individually because the other thing is I remember teaching, watching actually. It used to fascinate me to watch the we had. I worked at an institution for the developmentally disabled, and to watch the nuns come in and teach some of my folks who were considered severe and profoundly mentally retarded was the term then, teach them prayer. And I was like, how do you do that? And they would come back every week, and they were teaching my folks the simplest thing, just to hold their hands while they said the prayer. And then they moved on to, with one of the ladies, they were teaching her to hold her hands and at the end of the prayer to say, Amen. And then I worked on a building where the people could do more and could say more. And I'm watching her watching her teach the folks the Lord's Prayer. And I'm thinking, baby steps, baby steps. So your growth can come in baby steps because I was like just fascinated. And sometimes I go back and I think about that, like them baby steps. And I think about those little baby steps. And we have to remember, with all the steps that we've taken, some of them were baby steps and some of them were giant leaps. But they were all there. They were all part of the growth and the journey. Um, and we're going to give you, as a church, we're going to give you opportunities. We're going to give you educational opportunities. We've already said we have Bible study. We have this Covenant Keepers class. We have a new members class. In the fall, we're going to be starting another class that I'm already working on. We have spiritual development. Uh, we have for our kids, we have our Sunday school. We have our kids church. Uh, that hasn't stopped either, folks. Minister Ray is doing that every Tuesday online with the kids. And I've joined in a couple times. I love it. I love watching them. Do I want to teach it every time? No. But I love watching them. So you're going to have the opportunities there. For So we have leadership classes, and we're right now we're reading a book for our leadership group, and so the growth doesn't stop. No matter what your age, no matter what your skill level, the growth doesn't stop, and we'll adapt it to you to meet your needs. Okay. When I first started, one of the gentlemen, he could pray the heavens down. Well, then I found out he couldn't read. So people started working with him to read, got him in a reading class. Now, the best thing he says church ever did for him was it taught him to read. And we're going to find a way to help you if you just come join us, because we are committed to people growing, and not just growing as a Christian, but growing as people. Um, so that growth, it needs to be all around, or we haven't done our job as a church, because we're committed to that daily growth, to that sharing and that caring. And if things need to be gone over 50,000 times, I go back and I think about those nuns, and they did it every day they came in. They just taught my patients to hold their hands together for a prayer. Uh, you know, it's just amazing the little steps that you can do. And our spiritual growth comes from our trust in God. But in that trust in God, I think it leads to trust in others too. Um, I don't know about everybody else, but for me, as my trust in God has grown, my trust in others has grown. And I don't question others' motives or where they're coming from as much. I learn to accept. Um, and maybe because of church hurt or because of just regular hurt, you just need to learn some trust, and you need somebody to trust. We're not going to say we're perfect, and we're not going to make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes, but we're going to be here. And I think that's where the biggest trust comes in, is that MCC Baltimore and the leaders of MCC Baltimore are going to be here. And I think we've shown that over the last year, especially with COVID. And a lot of churches just didn't have leaders who could take it online and manage to survive. We've seen a lot of churches close over the last year, and memberships go down, and people feel like they're disconnected. Um, we're doing our best to try to stay connected, and we hope that you continue to stay connected with us so that we can earn your trust. Um, it's really funny. One of the scriptures that I have here written in this section says, spiritual growth results from trusting in God. The righteous person shall live by faith. Galatians 3:11. So, and it goes on to say, a life of faith will enable you to trust God increasingly with every detail of your life. And it's like, I think about it now, and it's like, boy, I didn't used to trust God with certain things, and now it's like, let me go to God first for that. And now when I think about when I'm making a big decision, I'm like, God, am I supposed to do this? I just sit here and wait a minute and let you tell me what I'm supposed to do. And I think that's another part of growth, is learning how to be still, learning how to sit and listen. Ladies, do you have anything to say? Because I'm getting dry and I need to stop for a minute.
No, I think you've said everything, Minister Mel. I think, you as a individual, the areas that you're lacking in. And since you know that, then these are the areas that you ask the Lord to help you grow in. And I think that's it.
And Mr. Joe, did you want to say something? She's being quiet today. I think the other thing that people forget is that they think you have to just grow what you're lacking in, but sometimes if you grow what you're strong in, what you're lacking in comes along and grows along with it. And that's something I learned in my secular life, but forgot to carry over into my church life. And then when I learned to carry that over, because when working with the developmentally disabled, and it's something that it's a term that we used all the time was try another way. Well, why couldn't I do that at church? And when I started doing that for myself, when I started trying another way instead of just doing it the way that I was taught to do or brought up to do, when I started doing it another way, I was like, this is so much easier. Why didn't I? Oh, wow. But like for Bible study the other night where I used 3 different translations, I'd never done that before. And now it's like, it's nothing for me to, I don't get it in this translation. Let me try another one. I still don't get it. Maybe it's time to go online and pull out my blue study Bible here and try it there. Or I'm going to tell you now, I'm terrible at pronouncing words. I can't do it. I get on that blue study Bible, and I must have drove Minister Joe crazy one night because I wanted to learn how to pronounce this word for my message on Sunday. I sat here and kept hitting play 50 times. Play, play, repeat, play, repeat, play, repeat, play, repeat. I knew the word come Sunday morning, but guess what? I still got up Sunday morning and did play, repeat, play, repeat, play, repeat, because I knew I had to know that word. So, you know, you got to while you're growing, you have to be gracious to yourself. You have to be generous with yourself too. Just like we said, we were going to be generous and give you the time to grow, and not. We're going to try not to push you. We will push you, but we're going to try not to push you too hard. But you have to also be generous with yourself and honest with yourself in that growth, and say, I'm having some problems with that one. Can we do that one again? Or I didn't get it that way. Is there another way you could teach me that? Okay, I can get that. Mr. Ray, did you want to say something? No.
No, you're hitting the nail right on the head.
So, you know, not just do you have to be generous with yourself, but you also have to understand that as you grow, other people around you are growing, and they're growing at different rates also. So you have to be generous with them in their growth. And sometimes, even though you're learning, sometimes you need to push them, because I love what Minister Ray said a little bit ago when, come to Bible study because it helps us to learn and to grow. And it helps us as teachers to learn and to grow, to have people to teach, she said. And she's right, because it's an exciting thing when you see somebody all of a sudden grasp something like, I got it. And I remember when I first started Bible study, that to me was so important to see someone get it. And now it's like, okay, you didn't get it. Let's try it around this way. Let's take it backwards. Like this past Wednesday, I'd have never thought, even when I was doing all the research, I'd have never thought that we could have taken an hour and a half and still been dissecting the 23rd Psalm, and like kind of had to like just wrap it up. And it was like, a year ago, if you'd have told me we'd have been doing that, I'd looked at you like you were crazy. Part of my growth journey. So, it can be surprising. So there are so many things you can do, because you can study the scriptures, you learn from your heart. One way that Minister Ray brought up was fellowship. Just come and be. because you're going to learn about people. You're going to learn to trust people. When she said fellowship, I was like, we forget that so much. Just be there. Um, One of the people who is like always there, even now that we're online, is Milton. He's always there. He always says, "Good morning, MCCB family. I miss you guys." And it's like I can't wait till I get to see him again and just get a hug, because it's like oh, it just makes my day the way, and I can just see him smiling on Sunday morning, and I think about that, and that's because of my fellowship and my relationship with him, and you want that back. It's like one of the things we talk about in a group all the time is can't wait to get back and give my hugs. I can't wait to get back and see everybody. So yeah, it's been a trial doing it virtually, but we're learning. We're learning. Um,
Hold on, I'm sorry, Minister Melinda. I think also um what I've learned is to not take things for granted. If you take for granted, going into the building and seeing everybody on Sunday, just seeing them, maybe go out to lunch after church or, chat for a while after church. But this pandemic, because everything shut down so quickly, like we were literally in church the Sunday before. And then I think we all went to lunch afterwards. And then it was like, okay, see you guys next Sunday. We didn't. We didn't. So it has really helped me to appreciate that I need to see you guys. I mean, I see you guys online probably 2-3 times a week, and I love it. But I really want to, like, even if we can't hug, I just want to see your feet. Like, I want to see your whole body. Your shoes, not your feet, but your shoe. Like, I want to see.
what is it? We got on one meeting and we were like, I'm in my pajama pants. Or I think I was the only one who was dressed from top to bottom because I had gone to work that day and everybody else was still working from home. And I was like, I'm not happy that I had to go to work now. But and Minister Ray is right. Even though we see each other all the time, we still there's a difference between seeing virtually and seeing in person. I think when we had the one fundraiser, it was so cute when we had the one fundraiser at Mod Pizza, and everybody came out and we ate outside, and the kids were over at this table and the adults were at this table. We were all trying to keep our social distance and still eat and still do our masks, and we couldn't hug, and we did an elbow bump, and it was like, but it was great because we got to see the whole person, and it was fantastic. So that's what when we say about fellowship, that's what we mean. Where it gets to the point where you actually miss when you don't get to see those people, and it's a part of the experience and it's a part of the bond, but it's also a part of your spiritual journey and your growth because um, I think when we talked about ministry and presence, that's what one of the things that we said is that you are missed when you're not there. Um, we pay attention and we know who's online because, like, I know that Prophet's online with us right now. I saw Minister Angie was online. Aaron is online. Miss Barbara's online. And we look for that. We look for you guys to be online with us because it's for us. It's like, yay, they're here with us, and that's just a part of the fellowship that we get to see and deal. I got a smiley from last night. Oh, Miss Susie, Susie, there, Auntie Susie's from Washington State. Yay! We miss you so much already, and we know you're going to join us virtually, but it's just not the same as Auntie Susie. It's just not the same. We're so happy you made it safe, though. We are so, so happy. So that's what I'm talking about when it's fellowship, when even across how many thousands of miles is Auntie Susie, and we still miss her, and we still love her, and but she's still a part of us. Okay? And that's just I can't stress that enough. The fellowship is so important. It is so important to your growth as a person and to your growth in your spiritual life. Um, Last is meditation. Minister Ray brought it up. Is sitting and being quiet, sitting and listening to the voice of God. We do it now. We call it our centering moment before Bible study, and it's really funny because it's something that I like to do. Just go and listen to the sounds that are in the air outside, and but now I realize I'm not just listening to the noises. Those noises all have a purpose. I'll never forget when we first moved up here, Joe was like, "What is that noise?" They're called peeper frogs. And if you've ever heard peeper frogs, come springtime, come summer, come up here and you will understand. They go beep, 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 and they never stop. And they're loud because we're near the river. So there's tons of them. And you hear them from the second it turns dark till the sun comes back up. They're all night long. You could go outside at 2 o'clock in the morning and hear these frogs going beep, 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 beep.
That's it. I'm not coming to visit you guys.
And it's funny because even though I grew up here, I didn't know what they were because I didn't grow up near the river. I lived like 4 or 5 miles from the river. Here we live like less than a mile from the river. So you really hear these things. And I'm like going, I don't know what they are, Joe. So I had to ask my cousin. He's like, oh, the paper frogs. They'll become your best friend. I'm like going, they ain't never going to become my best friend. You know, Joe calls them creepy. But you get used to going outside and listening to those noises. And it's like, then I realized, like, after you sit there for a while, you can pick out the different sounds. Like, I can tell which dog is barking by the sound of the dog now because of going outside and sitting so much. Um, I used when I worked night shift, I could tell which patient was awake just by the noises because in the quiet you learn those things, and sometimes you just need that quiet, not just to learn and to listen, but just to allow your body to relax and to give your body that rest while you're awake because our bodies are not meant to go, 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 go the whole time that we're awake. Even though we try to do that, and especially Minister Ray, since she has 2 young children, she tries to go, 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 go. You can't do that. It doesn't work. Sometimes you just have to sit and be still and listen. And you can do meditation. You can even say um, quiet prayers. Uh, I love when Minister Ray says some of her best time is when she walks the dog at whatever time of the morning it is that she walks her dog. Uh, you know, so that quiet time is really important too to your spiritual growth because that's the time when you can hear the voice of God. You're not going to hear the voice of God when you've got 60,000 things on the go unless the voice of God all of a sudden comes down like a clap of thunder and says, "Sit down, fool." And God's done that to me. He said, "Okay, you didn't want to listen here." Poop. And something will happen, and next thing I know, I'm sitting down and being still for a week. Like I would go, 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 and then all of a sudden I developed arthritis in my back and I couldn't even sit still. I couldn't lie, I couldn't sit. But I had to be still because movement hurt. So God's gonna make you sit and listen too. So building that time so that God doesn't have to make you sit and listen. Building learn meditation skills. Um, there are tons of books on it. There are tons of ways to learn. I learned by sitting and just being quiet, and now I love it. I love just sitting and being quiet. I think our neighborhood is funny because I sit outside on the steps and listen sometimes, and I wait till they all go to bed, and it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. But it's fun. So meditation is important because that's time when you can talk about God, talk to God. Um, so we've given you like so many ways that you can grow. Well, And like I said, it's a part of the journey. You're going to grow at a different rate from everybody else. You're not going to grow in the same speed. You're going to grow, and we'll be there. We'll be there to walk that journey with you. And sometimes we're going to have to hold your hand. Sometimes you're going to have to hold ours so we can get through our journey. And it's okay. It's okay. The last covenant we want to talk about, because as part of your spiritual growth, one of the last things you do is witness. And I think I can remember, like, I can't tell people about God. I'm not a good witness. I don't know how to do that. I'm not like the guys from the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints who ride their bikes and wear their white shirts and come around and tell everybody. I can't do that. I'm not good at knocking on people's door. But guess what? That's not necessarily how I'm supposed to witness or how you're supposed to witness. And I'm like going, what do you mean? Huh? What do you mean that's not what I'm supposed to do? I thought I was supposed to bring new people in. So I thought I'm supposed to go knocking on doors. Nope. Mother Teresa said, enough words. Let them see what you do. So your best way to witness is through your actions. And you can show love by your actions. You can show peace by your actions. You can show God's grace and God's love by your actions. I'm not going to say you're not going to use words. You will. But you're going to learn those as you do go through your growth journey. But you can always show God's love and God's grace. And that can be your witness. Um, we have two members of church, and their greatest witness is they're not the most intelligent folks. They're not the most outspoken folks. But guess what their witness is? They're there every Sunday, every time the doors are open, every time we clean, every time we paint, every time we have a service, they are there. And I love it. I look for them, I miss them, but that's their witness. They're there. Their witness is that we are God's children and we are here. And how powerful that is, because that's one thing that all of us talk about. And they've become leaders of the church in a way just because of that. And they've become very important to the church just because of that witness of being there and sharing their love, sharing their caring. And I'll never forget the first time the gentleman said anything. I was like, "You have a beautiful voice. You should talk more often." Maybe I should sit down and shut up sometimes so he can talk. What do you think, guys? So, and the other thing is we don't realize it, but we're witnessing all the time. I don't realize it. Um, I think one of the biggest compliments my aunt gave me, one of my aunts gave me is we were talking about a family situation and they were like, well, I just don't know how you do that, Melinda. And that was from one of my cousins. And my aunt said, it's because of who she is. She knows she's a child of God and it's God's got the situation. So she's okay with it. And I'm like sitting there going, you and I have never had this discussion. How do you know? So I had to go back and have this discussion with my aunt, like, how do you know that I feel that way? She said, I watch you. I know you. So we're witnessing and we don't even realize it. Because here I wasn't at church, I wasn't at work, I was witnessing to my family just through my actions and by saying that, this situation is not the greatest, but it's okay. I got through it and I can forgive the harm that was caused and we can move on. And I was like, I didn't realize I was witnessing to my family until my aunt pointed it out to me. So you're witnessing when you don't even realize it just because of who you are and whose you are. And you're witnessing just because you're sharing what you know. And you don't even have to be talking about God to be sharing God's love. And I think that's one thing that we often forget, that we can share God's love and not have to talk about God. I can see Minister Ray's wheels spinning. Did you want to add anything?
Well, no, I was going to say that with my secular job, we really can't, talk about religion. But I have talked to some people, and it's just, just expressing, the fact that they are loved and they are wanted, appreciated for, that is showing God's love to them, without using the word Jesus or God. But I think even in just your presence and who they know you to be. When I was going through my accident, my health issues and things like that, I had one person come to me and say, how are you doing this? And I'm like, I can't worry until it's time to worry. Because, in so many words, I knew who had me. I knew that God had me. So it was just simply, I can't worry until it's time to worry. And that's just what I said. She was like, oh, so I don't know if she understood what I was saying, but yeah, I can't worry till it's time to worry.
I love that. I can't worry until it's time to worry. And how many times do we say, well, if you just give it to God, then it's not your problem anymore? And that's where we were talking about growth and your trust in God. But Minister Ray turned around and used that as a witness, just like how many times do we do that? Because I think we're taught so much now you can talk about God on your job. And then I think about on my job and in the office I used to share. Now I have a nice office that's all to myself, and it's really funny. Minister Joe laughs because I used to share an office that's as big as the office I have to myself now. But I shared that office with 4 people. Yeah, a little cramped. But in that office, we had a Christian, we had a Jew, and we had a Muslim. But we would still have religious discussions and talk about God because the one thing that the 3 of us realized is that our religions and our beliefs were all similar. Our gods were very similar. And one of them said, well, our God is the same God. No, because your God is not my God. We all see God differently. But we were so comfortable and we trusted each other and we trusted where we were with God that we could have those conversations. And I tell everybody, being a Christian does not mean that I can't love someone of a different faith. It does not mean that I can't be a witness to someone of a different faith. It actually means that I am to love someone of a different faith and to be a witness to someone of a different faith. So, and that's been a part of my growth journey to learn those things. And if I hadn't been in that little office with all those little different religions, think about how it changed my world. And Joe's smiling because she knows those people that I shared the office with, and it took some trials and tribulations, and it didn't have anything to do with their religious beliefs. It had to do with some of their habits. So I'm very glad to have an office to myself now. I will say that. But it's at the same point, it's I do miss them, but it's a wonderful thing when I get to see them again. So even in times of COVID, we've had to separate on my job. So when we get to see each other, it's like, hey, how are you? And you're like trying to recognize people with this mask over their faces, like, oh, hey, so and so, I haven't seen you in ages. How are you doing? So can you picture what we're going to do when we get to see each other in person? And I guess I'm saying that because even with the mask, the physical mask on, we've still gotten to witness. We've still gotten to share God and Jesus' love by our actions, by our words, and by just being. Because sometimes your witness is just being there. You don't have to do a whole lot. Sometimes you just have to be. Um, it's comforting just knowing that someone's there sometimes. And that is sometimes the strongest witness that you can give. Um, just being that friend, just being that person who's there, having that little conversation. Nowadays, it's funny because Joe and I have this habit of sending my aunts and uncles because of their age and because we want to make sure that they know that we still care and we're still connected. Cards for the holidays. Well, this year with Christmas in the mail, everything got way behind. So we were visiting my one aunt, and she said, your aunt Naomi called me the other day and wanted to know, did the girls send you a Christmas card? Because I didn't get mine yet. And I'm like going, well, we mailed them a couple weeks ago. And my aunt Esther said, well, I didn't get one yet. The mailman came, and guess what was in the mail? Her Christmas card. And this was way out, like the second week in July. It took over a month to get the Christmas card. In January, I mean. But it took over a month to get the Christmas card there. But it made my heart jump to know that my aunt, who I don't talk to that often, who's 92 or 93, looks forward to that card from us. So that's our little witness, even within the family, that someone's there and someone loves you. So that is important to other people, and we don't think that that's important, but that little bit of witness is. And that little bit of sharing is how we can share God's love and God's caring. Um, Ladies, do you want? I'm done talking. I'm running out. Is there anything that either one of the two of you would like to share?
I don't have anything else to share. I think today's class has been really helpful for me. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Minister Melinda.
Thank you, Minister Ray, for joining me. Thank you, Minister Joanne. I thank Minister Lee for the little bit of time that he could be with us. Um, I look forward to this class because I look forward to seeing you guys. I'm like Minister Ray. I look forward to seeing you guys. I looked forward to seeing everybody on Facebook. It was so exciting to have everybody there come and join us. Um, we just ask that everybody be safe. I'm going to say a brief closing prayer and we'll see you the next time. So, Heavenly Parent, we thank you. We thank you for everyone who's joined us today. We thank you for them giving their time. We ask that this class help them, that it helps them to grow in their service and their growth and their witness of you. And we ask that you continue to bless them and bless their journey. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Goodbye, everybody.